Researchers in Iceland have recently unearthed a rare remnant of the Viking Age, a tiny stone figurine they believe was once a child's toy. There's just one problem: archaeologists can't decide whether it's a bear, a pig, a dog, or a different beast altogether. The small carving dates to between 940 and 1000. Experts discovered it at the Fjordur farm site in Seyðisfjörður, which has produced many archaeological treasures since excavations began here in 2020. The mystery animal measures 5 centimeters long and 2.7 centimeters tall. It is made from yellow-brown palagonite tuff, which is a type of volcanic rock. Despite a slight chip on one of its ears, it remains in good shape and stands on all fours. Is this the only Viking toy we have? Well, let's find out. Information about children's lives in the Old Norse world is scarce, as written accounts typically focus on adults, primarily men, leaving children largely in the shadows. Similarly, little is known about children's afterlives, as no runestones were raised in their memory. Apart from occasional discoveries of items interpreted as toys, there is limited evidence about how children spend their time or what they did for leisure. Artifacts believed to be toys have been uncovered at settlement sites and in graves associated with children, such as those at Birka and Lindholmshöje, as well as in places like the Shetland Islands and Dublin. One thing is clear: Viking children did play with toys, much like children do today. Archaeological finds include wooden toys such as small ships, swords, dolls, and animal figures. While many of these items were likely intended for play, some also served an educational purpose. For instance, a spinning top could help a child practice hand movements required for spinning, and miniature weapons might have been used for training before transitioning to full-sized iron weapons in adulthood. Children's graves from the Viking Age often include small bronze rattles, bells, and occasionally jewels. However, the number of identifiable child graves is surprisingly low, leading to speculation that children may have been buried separately from adults or in ways that are harder to recognize today. Some scholars have even suggested that the scarcity of child graves might point to the practice of infanticide. Toys from the Viking Age, discovered in both funerary and settlement contexts, were crafted from various materials, including wood, bark, bone, and occasionally metals. References to children's toys in the sagas are also rare. One exception appears in Viga Glum's saga, where a small bronze horse, a messingarhestur, was given by one child to another for play. A similar bronze horse was reportedly found at the Thingvellir site in Iceland, though it is now lost. Miniature horses and other animals occasionally appear in Viking Age archaeological finds. While some of these items may have had ritualistic purposes or served as weights, it is plausible that others were used as toys. Wooden horses seem to have been the most commonly intended toys, though it is also conceivable that children repurposed zoomorphic or anthropomorphic objects originally designed for other uses. Wooden horses have been discovered in Viking Age sites such as Dublin, Trondheim, Starajalladoga, and the Faroe Islands. A notable example from the Fishamble Street in Dublin features a realistically incised human mask on each side, spiral decoration on the joints and belly, and a faintly visible eye. While these decorations may hint at some sort of ritualistic purpose, the primitive style suggests they have been carved by an amateur, possibly a child. In contrast, a wooden horse from Trondheim, dated to about 1100–1125, is more finely crafted and often interpreted as a toy. Interestingly, the artist also carved a detailed representation of the horse's sexual organ, raising the possibility that it actually served a purpose beyond play. A peculiar 14th century tale describes the use of a horse's phallus in household rituals, though any connection to Viking Age sexual magic remains speculative. I recently uploaded a video about that particular story. You can find a link in the description section as well as in the card above. The wooden horse from Starajalladoga is more schematic, missing its legs but featuring a carved head and a mane. Similar small horses made of bronze and wood are also found in West Slavic late Iron Age contexts, where they likely had diverse functions. Toys in the form of small wooden boats, approximately 30 centimeters in length, have also been recovered from sites like Dublin and Trondheim. The Dublin example features incised diagonal lines, possibly depicting serpents, while the Trondheim boat, dated to the 1100s, shows the work of a skilled craftsman. Its shape resembles the Viking Age merchant vessels known as knurr. While these boats were likely toys, it is possible that some served as scale models for shipbuilding. Similar to miniature animals, these finds carry a degree of ambiguity in their interpretation. Scholar Leszek Gardella has noticed that miniature boats from early medieval Poland, such as those found in Gdansk, Opole and Szczecin, further demonstrate the prevalence of these objects and their diverse uses across cultures. Archaeological finds of alleged toys also include miniature and wooden versions of weapons and tools. Excavations in Dublin, Novgorod and Stara Ladoga have revealed numerous examples. The wooden swords from Dublin, for instance, are strikingly realistic, with details sufficient to identify their typology. One wooden sword, measuring 23 centimeters in length, featured a subtriangular pommel and a straight guard, and appears fully functional rather than merely decorative. Similarly, the wooden swords from Stara Ladoga, dated to the 8th and 9th century, closely resemble full-size Frankish swords. While these wooden swords are often interpreted as toys, they may have had alternative uses, such as tools for weaving or training weapons for adults. It is also conceivable that children appropriated weaving swords for play, borrowing them from other household members. Some Viking Age children were equipped with real weapons, scaled down to suit their size. For example, in Grehti's saga Ásmundarsonar, a 16-year-old boy named Atnor wielded a small iron axe, which was functional enough to be used in combat against Grehtir, the saga's protagonist. Archaeological findings corroborate such accounts with real but smaller weapons discovered in children's graves. At Grímsstaðir in Iceland, a child was buried with a small spearhead, and at Laufakvamur, another grave contained a small axe and a spearhead. These artifacts suggest that children's exposure to weapons was not only a form of preparation for adult roles, but also a reflection of their place within Viking society. Beyond weapons and the toys previously mentioned, children likely played with a variety of simple, everyday objects. Pebbles, beads, pieces of wood, and other organic materials available in and around the household could serve as playthings. The discovery of miniature clay pots in Scandinavia hints that children may have played with clay as well. Interestingly, animal bones might have been repurposed as toys. In 20th century Iceland, children played with cattle and sheep bones, treating them not as remnants of animals, but as representations of animals themselves. This insight opens the possibility that unusual arrangements of animal bones found at late Iron Age sites might occasionally result from children's games rather than pagan rituals. This perspective offers a more nuanced interpretation of such archaeological contexts, highlighting the playful creativity of Viking Age children. Archaeological evidence also points to miniature versions of domestic or household items crafted as children's playthings, often reflecting objects commonly used in Viking homes. These were likely carved from locally sourced stone and gifted to children, blending play with practical learning. For example, a small stone lamp was uncovered in the old earthen floor of God in Fetlar on the Shetland Islands. This piece was finely crafted, resembling full-size lamps typically found in Viking homes, and could function just as effectively. The term toy may not fully capture the purpose of such items, as they likely serve to teach children the skills of their elders. A notable example is the discovery of 15 miniature quern and millstones in Shetland, with the first found at Jarlshof and others recovered from sites such as Walsey, Eith and Viking sites in Unst. Initially believed to be unique to Shetland, similar examples have since been found in Trondheim in Norway as well. This suggests the possibility that settlers from Norway introduced these items to Shetland, where they became popular as both tools for amusement and skill building. Viking children did not attend school as it is understood today. Instead, boys were taught men's work by their fathers, brothers, and uncles, while girls learned domestic skills from their mothers and aunts, such as cooking, gardening, caring for animals, and making clothing. By the age of 12 to 15, both boys and girls were expected to be capable of running a household and managing a farm. In this context, play likely held a vital role, providing enjoyment, but also preparing children for adult responsibilities. Evidence from Shetland and elsewhere supports the notion that Vikings valued leisure as much as work. These findings suggest that despite the demands of a hard-working agricultural life, Viking communities made time for play and pleasure as well, just as people do today. In the medieval world, but also to some extent in Viking society, the ideal man was expected to excel in a variety of mental, verbal, and artistic skills. Earl Rongvan of the Orkneys famously celebrated his 9 talents in a poem, placing the ability to play tavl, tables, first on his list. This term broadly referred to board games involving marked surfaces, flat playing pieces, and sometimes dice. While often translated as drafts, this is misleading as modern drafts only emerged in Europe toward the end of the medieval period. Old Norse texts reference several varieties of tavl games, but the exact rules remain unclear. Gaming pieces are common finds in Viking graves, though it is rare to determine if a set is complete. Some games appear to have involved 16 pieces of one colour pitted against 8 pieces of another colour and a king. Other sets include 2 kings or none at all. Given the importance of gaming as a skill, it is likely that Vikings encouraged children to practice these games early in life. One of the most ornate gaming boards was discovered at Ballinderry near Limerick in Ireland. Likely crafted on the Isle of Man in the late 10th century, it features a 7x7 grid marked by holes for bone pegs. Its central and corner holes are emphasized with circles resembling the setup of modern games like Fox and Geese. A Swedish runestone also depicts men playing on a similar board, underscoring the popularity of such games across Viking Age Scandinavia. In the Viking period, the concept of play extended well beyond children's activities. It encompassed sports, musical performance, weapon practice, and other forms of leisure for adults. Men were praised in the Icelandic sagas for their skills in jumping, throwing, running, and horse fighting, as these physical abilities often proved crucial in battle. However, play could sometimes lead to violence. The Icelandic sagas recount episodes of competitive or aggressive play even among children. Perhaps the most notorious example involves the hero Egil Skallagrimsson, who at the age of 7 commits his first murder during a ball game, the so-called Knatleikur, by killing an older boy with an axe after being outperformed. Such stories reflect the often harsh and competitive environment in which Viking children were raised. I talked a bit about games in an older video, you should check that out as well, and I also have a longer lecture on childhood in the Viking Age in general. Do you know of any interesting ancient toys, perhaps from other cultures? If so, leave a comment. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this talk, smash the subscribe button for much more. As usual, this was Irina. Thanks a lot, and till next time.